So you're all very welcome to this webinar on European cooperation projects by the Creative Europe desk, so myself and my colleague Aoife. So I'm going to begin by talking a little bit about the structure of the desk and what it is that we do. So there's two, so the Creative Europe desk is the national contact point for the Creative Europe programme nationally. It's comprised of three offices. So we have a media desk in Dublin, one in Galway, and then we have the culture office, and we're hosted in the Arts Council. So what we do in the culture office is we provide information, advice and assistance to Irish applicants to the Creative Europe programmes. We promote the programme at local, regional and national levels, and we collaborate with key sectorial stakeholders and agencies. We also work closely with the wider Creative Europe Desk network, so our colleagues in the other Creative Europe countries. We also assist with partner searches, and we do cross-sectorial partnerships and events with our media colleagues as well. So to kind of just get into the kind of background, policy background, so why the EU funds culture? So there is the intrinsic value of culture to society, of course. There's also things like treaty commitments that are long-standing, and then we have the kind of policy background, which is outlined here. There's a few kind of new ones here that are kind of more specific to this goal. So we have the new European Bauhaus, and then also the Culture Compass for Europe is the kind of particularly new one. That came out, I'm pretty sure it was either early this year or late last year, so it's relatively new. So maybe an important one to keep an eye on when you're considering your application. So what is the Creative Europe programme? So it's the EU flagship programme supporting the cultural and creative sectors. And it has a budget of 2.44 billion for the current cycle that we're in, which is 2021 to 2027. And what Creative Europe does is it invests in actions that reinforce cultural diversity and respond to the needs and challenges of the cultural and creative sectors. So this is a breakdown of the budget for 2021 to 2027, and you can see the allocations for each strand there. And just a quick note on the current proposal for the continuation of the programme. So in July 2025, there was a draft proposal for the multi-annual financial framework, which proposed the creation of Agora EU. So that's a new programme that will bring together EU support for culture, media and civil society into one consolidated structure. So it would cover three kind of distinctive strands. So culture, which is the strand that we're under, and then we have Media Plus and the SERVE programme as well. So there's a proposed budget increase that also comes with that. So it's positive, but this is very much not set in stone yet. It's still being negotiated, and the kind of final outline of how things end up is still very much being sorted out. So, but it's good to kind of keep an eye on the news relating to the new programme. Yeah, so we have the sectors covered by the culture strand. So it's a very wide range of different cultural and creative sectors. So we have, including among others, architecture, cultural heritage, design, visual art, literature and publishing, music and performing arts. And then how the Creative Europe programme contributes to the overarching EU priorities. So there's more priorities than this, but these are the ones that the Creative Europe programme targets. So they are digital transition, green transition, inclusion and gender equality, and international relations. And when you're doing a cooperation project, you'll need to address these priorities. So the digital transition, it's sort of an acknowledgement that the creation, production and dissemination of cultural content is becoming increasingly digital. So harnessing the opportunities offered by new technologies such as AI in respect of EU law. So, for example, the AI Act. So, say for instance, the project that you're planning is very AI focused. You'll have to kind of make sure that you're taking into consideration the new AI Act in terms of that. But I've highlighted the word opportunities here in terms of digital transition because I suppose it's about thinking kind of positively about how digital media in some way can kind of can help your project. And then we have the green transition. So the cultural and creative sectors are encouraged to lead the green transition, promoting climate action and biodiversity. So projects should integrate environmental, sustainable, and proportionate measures. So again, with this, it's about not having climate action and biodiversity as being sort of like an afterthought, that it's very much integrated into the design of your project. So maybe that's through how the participating artists or practitioners travel, or maybe it's to do with the actual content of or like topic of the project. But it's kind of action based, and it's about integrating it into the design of the project. Similarly, with inclusion and gender equality, funded projects must integrate these principles into both design and implementation. So yeah, you're kind of showcasing how you'll kind of take meaningful steps and actions to ensure inclusion and gender equality. That could be for minority groups, or it could be more on a kind of gendered basis. And particular attention will be paid to the proposal strategies for promoting social inclusion and gender balance. So yeah, what's the particular strategy that you're gonna use to ensure that? And then the other one is international relations. So promoting cultural diversity, advancing intercultural dialogue, and helping to build partnerships that contribute to peace, mutual respect, and prosperity. So thinking about how this might take place in your project could be creating synergies, pooling resources, facilitating cooperation, and providing more visibility to existing cultural exchanges, or sort of maybe there's a shared heritage within different countries that you want to sort of highlight. Yeah, so the priorities under culture are resilience and recovery, innovation and joint creation, cooperation and exchange of practices. This being kind of very much a key one for cooperation projects. I suppose it's in the name, but this sort of like transnational cooperation is really, really key to the thematic kind of guidelines of cooperation projects. Then we also have key players and multipliers, and capacity building of artists. And then these are the strands under the under culture, creative Europe culture. But for the sake of today, I'm going to focus just on European cooperation projects. There's information about the other ones on our website as well. So I've touched on this a bit already, but just to kind of get further into what a cooperation project is. So it's multi-annual, and it's a cultural or artistic project. It involves partnerships between organizations in different countries. So it's transnational as well. It achieves common objectives across borders. So it's very much about sort of teaming up to tackle something collaboratively. It requires match funding, and individuals aren't eligible. But of course, artists participate in cooperation projects via organizations. So individuals sort of entities, I suppose, would participate as key stakeholders, but they're not the applicant. Then it also supports diverse partnerships, and it funds a really broad range of different activities. So to get further into kind of who the applicant is, so to apply, the organizations need to be legal entities. So you could be like an NGO, a cultural institution, museum, generally an arts and culture organization, or maybe it's a part of a university. You must be established in one of the Creative Europe participating countries. So that includes the member states, which also includes overseas countries and territories, and also non-EU countries, so listed EEA countries and countries associated to the Creative Europe programme. And I've included a list here, or a link to a list, where you can look at the full list of the participating countries. The organisation must have sufficient financial and operational capacity in order to take on the project, and you must also meet the minimum partner number. So that's for small scale, that's 3, or for medium scale, that's 5. And the partners must be from different countries. So perhaps you're based in Ireland, but you have, so that's one country. Then you have a partner in Norway and a partner in Tunisia, and that's your 3 different countries listed there. You couldn't have 2 partners in Ireland and 1 in Norway. It would need to be different countries. And then you can also have affiliated entities and associated partners, but they don't count towards the minimum eligibility criteria. So the partnership, whether it's 3 or 5, it needs to be that they're all kind of actively participating in the project, rather than like an associate partner that might join just for part of the project. Okay, so just to get into example activities for the kind of activities that might be covered under cooperation projects. So it could be promoting the transnational mobility of artists and professionals. It could be strengthening audience development and improving access to European cultural and creative works. Could be more focused on capacity, like developing new and enhancing existing skills and competencies for artists, cultural professionals, or it could be arts organizations either. Could be contributing to aspects of inclusion and gender equality and enhancing intercultural dialogue. I suppose a lot of projects would be doing that. It could be actively involving young people in cultural and creative activities to foster innovation, co-creation, and intergenerational dialogue, as well as transnational dialogue. So, and then it could be that the activities raise awareness of a common history. Maybe it's a kind of shared EU values or cultural diversity. So it could sort of highlight areas of interest in terms of common history or themes. Just to give a bit more context, this is from our new publication that my colleagues Aoife and Leona have been working really hard on. So it's great to see it realized. So this is a project from Project Art Centre called Europe Beyond Access. This is a large-scale cooperation project, which I've not really touched on today, because the large-scale ones, because it's not open in this round. So I'm keeping the focus on small and medium, but this is a large-scale one, so you can see that there's a big list of co-partners there on the right-hand side. So this project included 10 leading European performing arts institutions joining forces to advance the work and careers of disabled artists, including deaf artists, artists with physical disabilities, sensory impairments, and learning difficulties. So Europe Beyond Access embeds best practice in their organizations and networks, championing the groundbreaking artistic practices of disabled artists and platforming their work in mainstream institutions. So ultimately, their aim is to eliminate ableism in Europe's cultural arena. So you can see that it's really kind of tying into those sort of thematic objectives, but it's also kind of, they've highlighted a particular challenge in the sector and something that needs to be resolved and addressed. And they've sort of outlined how they'll do it. So it's a really amazing one. I'm excited to see how it progresses as well. So here's another one, which is Photo Museum Ireland, Project Groundswell. So this one is about this is I think medium, no, it's small scale. So this is 4 leading photo organizations in Europe coming together to create new funded opportunities for artists to develop and exhibit photographic work focusing on climate action. So it offers opportunities for artists and cultural professionals to develop skills in environmentally sustainable practices. Audiences will have the opportunity to experience exhibitions and photo book publications and engage with issues of sustainability in meaningful ways. So again, you can kind of see how it ties in with the sort of policy background in terms of the Green New Deal and the sort of like priorities of the action itself. So to kind of get a bit further into the application sort of procedure, you have 2 objectives, and there are 2 objectives, and you select one. So we have transnational creation and circulation, so strengthening the transnational creation and circulation of European works and artists. So this is more of a focus on like co-production and dissemination. And then we have objective 2, which is innovation. So that's enhancing the capacity of European cultural and creative sectors to nurture talents, to innovate, to prosper, and to generate jobs and growth. So that one, I would kind of view it as being more focused on capacity building. So yeah, you just select one of those. Okay, yeah, again, you can kind of further into the technicalities here. So as I mentioned, there's just the 2 scales open in this round. So small scale is a minimum of 3 independent entities from 3 different eligible countries. And the maximum EU grant amount is 200,000 per project, with a funding rate of maximum 80%. And then moving on to medium there, we have a minimum of 8 independent entities from 5 different eligible countries, maximum grant amount 1 million per project. And then, but that's a funding rate of maximum 70%. And then in terms of duration, for all, the maximum duration is 48 months. Yeah, so coordinators. So you'll have the consortium of different partner organizations, but you also have a coordinator who sort of like leads on the administrative and kind of drives the project. So the coordinator must have had legal existence for at least 2 years on the date of the deadline for submission. So the deadline being the 5th of May, if I'm remembering correctly. And so yeah, your legal entity needs to have been established for at least 2 years. By then, coordinators can only apply as a lead in 1 application in this round. So you can't be a lead in multiple applications. You must have stable and sufficient resources and operational capacity. This is particularly important for the lead because you're taking on sort of more of the administrative and operational duties relating to the project. And then we have associated partners. So applicants may participate with associated partners. So partner organizations which participate in the actions, but without the right to get grant money. So maybe they contribute, it could be like a venue or a particular sort of, maybe they're offering kind of like research or something like that. So they're participating, but they're not driving the project specifically. Okay, yeah. And moving on to the award criteria, I know this looks a little bit scary, but they might be good. I thought they would be good questions to ask yourself as you're working on the application. So relevance gets 30 points. So there's a few things here just in terms of like, is your proposal relevant to the selected objective? Does it have a European dimension? Does it contribute to the European overarching priorities, which I mentioned? Is it innovative in a particular sector? So it could be like building on pre-existing sort of knowledge bases in your particular kind of field. But then what are you doing to sort of innovate from that? Taking into consideration the kind of already established research or yeah, kind of context in your sector. Quality of content and activities, also 30 points. Are the proposed concept and methodology appropriate for achieving the project's objectives? Do the design and the work plan of the project make sense together? How will the partners work together? Is there clarity of roles? Does it take into account the organization's expertise? Do you have kind of key sort of people within the project that are able to kind of take on certain roles, and are you kind of utilizing the skills that they have? How will it benefit specific target groups and audiences? And yeah, I suppose also, how will you reach those target groups? Project management then, is the coordination and governance structure appropriate and clear? Even like laying out how the different partner organizations are going to communicate and coordinate the project together. Are the work packages feasible? Do you have enough staff and resources? Does the budget reflect value for money? Does it allocate sufficient resources? Does it match the activities in the work packages? Are measures put in place that consider risk factors, planning, and evaluation? And then we have dissemination, which is 20 points. So will the project continue to have impact when it's over? And then what measures will you put in place to ensure the sort of lasting impact of the project? Maybe that's thematically or through kind of actions. And then, do the communication activities have potential to meet the target groups? And what will be the visibility of the project? Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague Aoife, who's going to speak further on the kind of technical aspects, beginning with the work packages.
Hello, thanks a million, Lucy. Yeah, so just getting into the more technical side of your application, and which you will be thinking about now as you develop ideas, and come together with your proposal for the call, because the work packages really will be how you define your proposal, and your approach to the project. So there are core work packages, and we'll look at those in a moment, but just to kind of look at how they work or why they do it. And the work packages group together your activities under different headings, under defined work packages, and you allocate eligible costs to those activities. So really, it's about kind of consolidating the project in terms of activities and relevant costs, which then will go into your budget. So in a way, you're shaping your project and you're shaping your application as you go. So it is useful. The work packages, what we do say is to keep them at a minimum, and there are core ones, as I mentioned, because this will make it simpler for your budgeting and your reporting throughout the project. The work packages do allow greater emphasis on your defined deliverables. So as I said, you're shaping those deliverables within the pieces of work, and your outcomes and results. So you are putting together those activities, but you're also putting them together for reporting purposes as well. The lump sums are calculated per your work package, so they will not be paid until that work package is completed. So you will have to be able to identify when it is completed to get the payment. There's ongoing monitoring and documentation that we would really say is very important, and evaluation of the project. Again, you will be using this for your reporting. So always keep on top of that if you can. The next slide. Thanks, Lucy. So where to begin? To begin when you're thinking about your work packages. So group the activities together and the costs around this. As I said, these are the examples of work packages, and these are also the core ones. So the management, administration, and coordination, the implementation, which would be your artistic and creative expression, capacity building, networking, and knowledge sharing, and then your communication and dissemination. So obviously you can have additional ones if there are areas of work that are really crucial to the project. But as we say, try and keep it to the minimum. So let's look at the eligible activities for the work packages. Thanks, Lucy. So management, administration, and coordination. So this is generally the lead, the coordinator will be leading out on this work package. So the activities could be planning and preparation, your meetings, coordination activities, preparation of reports, and the deliverables. So you will be putting this in your application. What are the deliverables for this work package? And they can be agenda meetings, agenda minutes, evaluation, quality control reports, etc. And the next work package, thanks, is the implementation. So the implementation work package around artistic activities. So these activities ranging from rehearsals to exhibitions to fairs to performances to digitization of cultural heritage, all of those above. And your deliverables could be the schedule, the planning of rehearsals, prototypes, original creative works such as theatre pieces, songs, artworks, concerts, publications, exhibitions, etc. And the next work package is your communication and dissemination. So these activities could be communication, campaigns, promotional events, production of communication and dissemination material. And the deliverables for that would be newsletters, your plan, your strategy, your website, social media posts, statistical analysis of your website, etc. And again, that one is a core work package, the communication and dissemination. And the next slide. So looking at eligible costs then related to those work packages. So there are direct staff costs, there are subcontracting costs, and subcontracting, I'll get to this at the end, there is a call document, as you probably are aware, and the most up-to-date call document is available. We have a link to it in this, but obviously you'll find it online. But within the call document, the details, it has a breakdown of all of these kind of the costs, but also your subcontracting. So within that, for the full budget, the subcontracting should not go over 30% of your total budget. And if it does, then you need to be able to kind of prove the need for that. So there are subcontracting, definitely you can put in up to 30%, and then again more you'll need to kind of prove why. So within these purchase costs, then there are travel, accommodation, and subsistence. Again, there is a link to the European Commission's kind of advice or rules around the costs for travel, accommodation, and subsistence, and that's within the core document. So definitely look those up. There's also equipment and kind of the depreciation value of that, and that's within the core document as well. So all of these, there's guidance on all of these costs. C3 there is other goods, works, and services, including artist fees and production costs. So they're kind of, you'd be well used to those types of budgets or those types of costs for your organizations. Financial support to third parties. Again, yeah, this can be in-kind support. So you can look that up again and the kind of guidance around those costs and what percentage can go to each. 7% then goes to indirect costs, the rent costs or not, the costs that are not directly related to the implementation of the project itself. And the next slide. So your financial capacity will be kind of judged on the basis of the documents that you upload in the participant register during grant preparation. So these are your regular company documents, profit and loss account, your balance sheet, your business plan, audit reports by an approved external auditor. So they will be those analysis of your financial capacity will be based on those documents. You may be asked then to upload some more documents depending on the outcome of their kind of analysis of your financial situation. It'll be based on neutral financial indicators and other aspects of your dependency on EU funding and your revenue in previous years. Again, earlier on, we had one of our pages. Apart from financial capacity, there's the idea of operational capacity. This will be another kind of way that your project will be kind of analyzed or assessed. And operational capacity will really be looking at the know-how of the participants and the organizations within the company or the consortium. So do you have the know-how and the kind of the history, the past history of your work to deliver on what you're proposing for the project? And the next slide, please. So next steps. Yeah, we've kind of said this over the years. Really thinking about where you are in terms of your organization's trajectory, the capacity of your organization as it stands. Does the work that you are engaged with now align with Creative Europe priorities? And maybe it does. Maybe you've been working in the areas as Lucy outlined around green, around digital transition or EDI, whatever. But just it is really to assess where you are now as an organization. And if you are aligned, you go potentially to identify your potential partners and co-funders nationally, universities, local authorities, peer organizations, develop those project ideas. And the work packages will flow from those project ideas, as we kind of said earlier on. You can engage in a partner search, and if so, you can get in contact with us. Obviously, keep in touch with the Culture Office and our ongoing events around the call. Speaking of that, we have our application workshop for this call, for the cooperation call, coming up on the 27th of March. So do register for that if you were thinking of applying. And our next slide is, yeah, so the timeline, as Lucy said, the call is open, has been open since the 5th of March. And the deadline is for the 5th of May. That is Central European time at 5 p.m. So keep an eye on the time, on the day. They obviously, with most applications, they're very strict about the time of the deadline. Then the evaluation will go from May to October 2026. The information on that evaluation, the results should be November 2026. And then the Arts Council co-funding should open in autumn 2026. That one will be kind of confirmed in the next few months. And then the grant agreement signature should be February 2027. From then, you can your projects will start. Now, these dates are also indicative, as Lucy has put in the slide. So there are, if anyone knows Creative Europe, they know that these are potentially going to change, and maybe they may not at all, but just to bear that in mind. And the next slide is, yeah, so the Creative Europe Culture Office started the co-funding award with the Arts Council, which is a great opportunity for projects that have been confirmed or have received their successful letter from the from the European Union Commission around their cooperation project, they are eligible to apply to the co-funding award. And the award, as it says, co-funds the Irish activities and Irish costs directly related to the implementation of the project. So do bear this in mind as well as an opportunity for you to co-fund your project. As we said, the deadline is expected autumn 2026, and that relates to the 2026 calls that we're looking at the moment. And I think we might be, yeah. So just it's pretty obvious, but obviously keep your head in the call document and be very aware of what their guidance is, because they really touch on everything that you need to know about your consortium, about the application process. So there's the link there to the call document. You will have to, if you haven't done already, you will have to make your own portal kind of personality within the funding and tenders portal. And you will then be given a pick for your application for your organization. And then the AGA is for the grant agreement process. So that's later on in this process. But the other links there are very relevant to this stage. And that's kind of it, I think. Yeah, so stay in touch. We're very active, as you know, on social media and our website. There are YouTube, recorded events that we did last year and the year before on YouTube around capacity building for those the very important priorities within the call. Just because the timeline is so quick this year, we won't be able to do that. It was delayed in the call details, but they're still really relevant. They're exactly the same as what has been asked for this year in terms of digital, EDI, green transition, etc. So they're very useful and they're on YouTube, as is the link that Leona just sent about our publication and case studies. So I think that's it. I'll hand you back to Lucy. And thanks a million. If you have any questions, of course.
Thank you, Aoife.